Hello everybody, welcome to the very first lesson of this Excel course. This lesson has got a lot of information in a short time period, so pay attention, feel free to pause it to let the information sink in, and just absorb as much knowledge as you can. In the next lesson, there is an example where you can get hands-on experience. But for now, just sit back and relax and try to absorb as much information as possible. You can take notes if you like, but it's not necessary. So let's get started. In this lesson, we are going to cover the following topics. We are going to learn about online Excel and offline Excel. We're going to learn about rows and columns, adding text to cells, adding numbers to cells, simple formulas like plus, minus, multiply, and divide. Also simple formulas using cell references and simple formulas like sum and average. We're also going to learn about formatting text, numbers, cells, resizing rows and columns, hiding rows and columns. And we're also going to explore the user interface. We are going to explore the so-called ribbon and worksheets. And finally, we're going to talk very briefly about offline Excel. Basically, it's only this lesson and the next example which we will be using online Excel for. For the lion's share of the course, we will be using offline Excel. Let's get started using online Excel. I am currently using online Excel, but how did I get here? Online Excel is free for everyone to use, irrespective of operating system. The only thing you need is a Microsoft account. So in order to start, just surf to onedrive.com. Here you can sign in. If you don't have an account yet, you can create one here. Once logged into OneDrive, you can see all your files and folders. If you want to click a new file or folder, just click up here. You have a choice of various file types. Let's pick Excel. As you can see, a new document is created and it's automatically opened in a new tab in your internet browser. I'm going to close this document and then delete it like so. To use the offline Excel, however, you have to first buy it and make sure it's installed on your computer. You can just start it up in the normal way by pressing on the Windows button and searching for it by typing Excel. Both the offline and online version have a ribbon. To make more space, you can hide the ribbon. Even when the ribbon is hidden, you can still see all the menu items by clicking on them. If your ribbon is hidden, you can show it again by clicking on this pin. That's pinning the ribbon in place. So let's move back to the online version. Next, we learn about rows and columns. Each Excel file is made up of grids. Each box in the grid is called a cell. The cells have rows and columns. Each row has a number and each column has a letter. And it's the combination of this letter and number that combine to identify the location of each cell. You can see the cell number in the top left corner. So for example, the top leftmost cell is A1. This cell is D4. This cell is G5. Cells have a content. Content can be either text values or number values. In order to add a text value to a cell, just select the cell and simply start typing. It's exactly the same with a number value. Just select the cell and start typing the number. One interesting thing to note is that text cells are aligned on the left, while number cells are typically aligned on the right. If you combine text with numbers, the content automatically becomes text. We can also add a number as text by adding the apostrophe in front of the number. For example, this counts as the text 1, 2, 3, and if I tried to add or multiply this, it would count as text and not as a number, and so it would give an error message. Next, let's talk about simple calculations. We can use the plus, minus, multiplied by, and divide by symbols. For example, with plus, I have to first type equals, and then use the arrow keys to select another cell, and then plus. Instead of adding the values of two cells together, I can also enter numbers into the formula directly, like so. For multiply, I use a star. And for divide, I use a backslash. Why not try out some simple calculations like these for yourself? We can also add simple formulas, like sum and average. To do that, just type equals first, and then type the name of the formula. For example, sum, which just adds up all the elements. I open brackets, and I click and drag to mark the selection which is going to be added up. My online Excel version uses the Dutch language, so I have to change this to the Dutch version, which is SOM, S-O-M. With this button, I get a list of all functions available to Excel, with the most commonly used functions over here. For example, if I pick average, it immediately translates it to Dutch. Incidentally, in future videos I will be working in English. Next, let's talk about formatting. Formatting text is easy. In the ribbon, we have all sorts of formatting options. For example, bold, italics, underline, double underline, strike through. We can also change the color of the cell or the color of the text. And we can easily increase and decrease the size of the text. We can align to the left, to the right, or in the middle. When it comes to formatting numbers, we can format a number as a percentage, for example. We can increase or decrease the number of decimal places we see. We can change the comma style. We can even format as a currency. And we can change if we want euros or pounds or dollars or whatever we like. Or we could even format as a date or a time. For example, 12 o'clock. When it comes to date, we've got short date, which in this case will be day, month, year. But in America, it would be month, day, year, for example. So to avoid this kind of confusion, I prefer to use long date wherever possible, because then it writes out the name of the date. As I've already shown, we can also format the background color of the cells here. We can resize the rows and columns just by clicking on the line between the columns and dragging. Or we could double click there in order to automatically fit the column width to the width of the longest cell. It's exactly the same for row heights. Just click and drag on this line, or double click on the line to automatically fit it to the row height of the content. We can hide rows. Right click on these rows and select hide. We can hide multiple rows in one go. And if we want to unhide it, just select the columns on each side, right click and click on unhide. Or double click on the hidden columns and rows. Next, let's talk about the ribbon. We've already talked about showing and hiding the ribbon. Now we are going to get a quick idea about some of the things we can achieve with the functions on the ribbon. Under the File tab, we have things like New and Open and Save As. In the Home ribbon, we've already seen a lot about formatting, and we also have things like Copy, Paste. And also Insert and Delete cells. Under Insert, we can do all sorts of things like insert charts and pictures. In Data, we have functions like sorting and filtering. In Review, we can add and manage comments. In View, we can switch between different viewing modes. And under Help, we have all sorts of options finding help. Next, let's have a look at worksheets. Each document can contain multiple worksheets. Each worksheet will contain its own data. You can find out which worksheet you're currently working on down here. If you want to rename the worksheet, just double-click on the worksheet name. You can also add a worksheet by clicking on this plus. And you can switch between worksheets simply by clicking on them. Remember, we are currently working in the online version. If you want to download this file so that you can work on the offline version, it's simple. Just click on File, and then click on Save As, and then download a copy. Since my offline version is actually in English, we'll be using the offline version for the remainder of this course, but you can feel free to follow along in the online version if you like. The only thing is that the free version does not have all functions. So if you want to follow along with all the lessons, you should purchase a copy of Excel. You can then use either the online version or the offline version as you prefer. Just make sure you have a purchased copy. And that's all for this brief introduction video. Hopefully you've been following along more or less alertly. But it's one thing to passively understand what I've just taught you, but quite another to get some hands-on experience. So that's why I recommend you follow the next example lesson step by step. This course contains theory lessons like this one, example lessons where you will ideally follow each example in the video step by step, and exercise lessons where you will ideally try to solve the exercises yourself before having a look at the solutions. So I wish you good luck and try copying the example exercise in the next video. See you soon. Bye bye.